For this recipe you will need 350 grams of raisins, 225 grams of currants and 225 grams of sultanas, 350 grams of soft but dark brown sugar, 200 grams of candied mixed peel, 225 grams of shredded vegetable suet. This is the brand I had, and that's what it looks like. It's a bit weird. 1 cored and chopped brownie apple, 4 teaspoons of mixed ground spice, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and the zest and juice of 2 oranges and 2 lemons. And then you can add some brandy at the end if you fancy it. And of course you need your pastry as well. I use puff pastry and also short crust pastry. I don't bother making my own because I just don't have the time or the patience, and this stuff is just as good. So then you're just going to take all your ingredients minus the brandy and put them all in a bowl together. Give it all a good mix together and then leave it on the side with a clean tea towel over the top for at least 12 hours, or I left mine overnight, and this will mean all the flavours infuse together. If you do have small children running around, just make sure they don't grab it, because Ellis nearly grabbed this and pulled it off the side, so I had to move it somewhere else. So the next day, after your mincemeat has been sat out for at least 12 hours, you then want to tip it into a oven-proof dish. If you were going to add brandy, you would add your brandy at this stage here. Give the mixture one final stir and then either cover the pot with some foil or use a lid. And then you're going to put it in the oven at 110 degrees Celsius for 3 hours. Once it's taken out the oven, it should look something like this. Delicious! One thing I should actually add is that you will need to sterilise a jar before the mincemeat goes into it. I'll leave a link in the description on how to sterilise your jars, because there is a process to it. It's really easy, but I'll leave a link to it below. Before you do anything to your mincemeat, you need to let it cool completely, and it will look a bit funny after it has cooled, but that's just because the suet, the vegetable fat, will sort of cover everything into a nice glaze. And once it's ready, you're just going to decant it into your mason jar. Now it comes to making the mince pies. You're firstly going to preheat your oven to 200 degrees Celsius. Then you need to get together some cookie cutters. I'll be using this 3 1/16 inches for the bases of the mince pie, and then I'll be using other shapes to cover the top, including this really cool Disney one. And then this is completely optional. I choose to use silicone cupcake cases just because I get worried if I put pastry straight into the baking tray hole. When I try and remove the mince pie after they finish baking, they'll be stuck to the bottom. Although I'm sure if I just greased the holes well, it would work perfectly fine, but I just don't trust myself. And then you're going to get your pastry and roll it out to make it nice and thin, and use your cookie cutter to cut out the bases. Don't forget to save pastry so you can cover the mince pies afterwards, because I nearly forgot about it and did all bases. Then fill your bases with about 1/2 tablespoon of mincemeat. Don't overfill it because it will spill out the top. And then using a bit of oat milk on a brush, you're just going to wet the edges so you can then put the lids on top and try and seal it down as best as possible. Put the lids on top, and again using some oat milk on a brush, you're just going to want to cover all of the pastry with milk, which will give the pastry a nice golden glaze when it's baked. Once all the mince pies are covered with milk, you're then going to get a sharp knife and poke a hole into the middle of the mince pies just so heat can escape. And then, although I don't know if this works very well for me, I sprinkled some caster sugar over the top in the hope that it would get a nice caramelised finish, but for some reason it didn't work very well for my mince pies, but I'm sure maybe it would work for others. I don't know what I did wrong. And there they are, ready to go into the oven. You're going to want to cook them as per the pastry instructions. My pastry told me to bake them for 25 minutes, but in the end they ended up baking for around 30 minutes. Just use your judgment. Once the pastry is nice and golden and crispy, you know they're done. Then once they're finished, you're just going to want to dust them over with some icing sugar, and hey presto, you are done. Although it's quite a long process, it's very easy to do, and in my honest opinion, these mince pies are delicious. I really don't like shop-bought mince pies, so it's nice to be able to actually enjoy this festive treat Let me know if you do make them. I'd love to see your attempts on Instagram. Please tag me in anything you do try and do. And if you have liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. And if you're feeling fancy, hit subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.